right, thanks for tuning into MurrayMax. We got another Charlie Kirk video here. This is a recent one that was uploaded, and I haven't seen it yet. As usual, we're going to watch it together. But this one is in the context of reparations, and let's see what we have to say. This is an argument that's been made time and time again, so I have no doubt that it'll be quick, and Charlie Kirk is going to shut this down because, I mean, that's not me fanboying over Charlie Kirk. I just understand that if you've made the same argument and had the same discussion 100 times, it only gets easier. So let's check it out. Feel free to comment what you think of it too.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Been a long-time fan, but
thank you. Just talk right into the mic if you can, please.
Oh, okay. The topic I want to discuss with you today is it's on reparations, but more so why there's a bias towards Black Americans when it comes to reparations. Now, I understand that no Black American alive has ever been a slave. I acknowledge that. However, sorry. The point I wanted to make is that reparations have been given to other ethnic groups, Asian Americans for their incarceration during World War II, Native Hawaiians. Sorry, I wrote it all down, but even former slave owners, specifically the ones in the North that had to give up their slaves, they were compensated for former slaves. However, why is it that when it comes to Black people receiving reparations, there seems to be a lot of pushback to the point where now, now it's almost laughable to even think about Black people getting reparations for something in the past?
Well, for any of those examples, was there intergenerational reparations given?
No.
So they're not necessarily applicable, right? So those were the actual people that received it because a wrong was done to them.
Correct.
We're talking about something 150 years removed. And also, not every Black person is a descendant of slaves.
Which is obviously the biggest point in this issue. You cannot make me or anybody else responsible for the bad actions of somebody who isn't me or somebody else. You have to make me responsible for what I have done. I am not responsible for what my great-great-great-grandfather did. My great-great-great-grandfather was not a slaveholder, but that's just a hypothetical, even if he was. It's kind of funny, like, someone will ask me sometimes, well, why don't you think that you have any responsibility to bear? And I'll say, why am I responsible? And they'll say, well, because your ancestors did this and your ancestors did that. And I'll ask them, tell me what my ancestry is. And they'll say, well, I don't know. Yeah, you're right, you don't know. Because there's part of my ancestry that, my dad came here when he was a young child to the United States. And he wasn't even a full-blown citizen for a while. So how is somebody who came here in the 50s responsible for things that happened here more than 100 years before that? The whole thing is just silly. It's and when you look into the percentages of who held slaves, you look into the reality of where they originally came from. It's like, does Africa have to pay? Do some of these African countries that had huge parts of their economy based around the slave trade of enslaving other people in Africa and selling them to the Middle East, to Europe, to North and South America? A lot of people don't know this, but the majority of slaves in the transatlantic slave trade didn't even go to North America. They went to South America. So, just kind of like some interesting all around. Let me know in the comments what you think.
Some are mixed race. Some are able to prove that. But I think more importantly, we should ask the question, have we spent a lot of money on the Black community the last 50 years? And if so, has it worked?
It's a good question because, obviously there are certain communities in Black America that are not so great. Some of the traumas and problems they have are of their own making. I acknowledge that. Thankfully, I was raised away from all that, 2 loving parents. But
what's kind of an interesting thing to note, and of course it could just be a coincidence, but this guy who's up here talking to Charlie Kirk, he seems like he's kind. He seems like he's not up here looking to just use ad hominem attacks. Seems like he's respectful. It seems like he's actually trying to have a good faith conversation. But he also is mentioning that he comes from a a good household with both parents at home and things like that. Just something to think about.
That's the greatest thing that you are, one of the, if not the greatest. And that's my hope for every child, black, white, or Asian, to have two parents. That is a ticket to success. Please continue.
But the example I wanted to use was the two Tulsa survivors. They tried, they're aged, over 100 years old. They've tried to sue the Oklahoma government for reparations for their lost property. And they were actually denied reparations. And to me, when I read about that, because to me that was kind of the test to see, like, okay, they say reparations shouldn't go to people who weren't directly affected. Well, here we have two people who were directly affected, who were there, and they were still denied reparations. So
but there's also the other side of that. If somebody, burned my house down, for example, but then they're long dead and gone, I can't get some kind of repayment or compensation or restitutions from somebody who isn't the person who did it. So while I might still be around, and I may still have actually had my house burned down by somebody, and I may have lost a lot of personal items that maybe my insurance didn't even cover, and even if my insurance covered it, I would still be owed restitution for what had happened. But if the person who actually lit the match is no longer around, that doesn't mean that I get to start hitting up other people because they're the same race to compensate me for what had happened.
Me, that kind of confirmed that it was never about who was directly affected or not. To me, it just sounds like there's a bias towards black Americans.
Okay, I don't know about that instance. I'll look into it. But more broadly, I do want to just repeat the point, and something to think about, you don't have to answer it, that we've spent trillions of dollars on trying to improve the well-being of black Americans since the 1960s. And actually, black America is poorer per capita and on average in relation to other groups than it was in the 1960s. So I would argue it's actually not a resource or a money thing. It's a values thing. And the values, unfortunately, that are predominantly in the black community right now are quasi-suicidal.
Fair point. But, basically I just wanted you to... I didn't know if I was going to change your mind, but it's something I wanted you to think about.
I'll research the example that you gave, and thank you for watching our content and being a supporter.
Definitely.
So that was a good, friendly conversation. And, Charlie Kirk brings up the point that, ever since the Civil Rights Act, all of this funding has gone to the black community, but it kind of doesn't show in the results. And people keep thinking that the answer is to provide more funding. But let's just look at data and statistics. And it's like one of the most major changes that's occurred in that community since the Civil Rights Act is the explosion of fatherless homes. And you can get into the reasons about why that is or isn't and things like that. But it directly impacts not only a current standing, but future standing and a perpetuating cycle of poverty and downward financial progress, or I guess regress. But there's lots of things to think about when it comes to that. This was just a gentle exchange. It's nice to see people come up there. You get like these crazy blue-haired liberals that come up there and all they want to do is just start by saying like, "Hey, Charlie, I hate you," and it's like, really, that's how we're going to start the conversation. But this guy seems like someone I would like to have a discussion with, guys like this, because they just, that they're going to listen, and I know that I'll listen to them, and there can probably be a lot of common ground to be found there, and that's what we call productivity. So kudos to this guy, whoever he is, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for tuning in to MurrayMax. Feel free to give it a like if you want and a subscribe. Share it if you want. Still trying to build this channel. I do this in my free time. It's fun for me. So if you guys just want to watch the videos and never like it and never subscribe, that's fine too. I totally get it, because I'd be a hypocrite to say otherwise. I watch lots of stuff that I never subscribe to. So, do what you want. Support me if you want. Otherwise, have a good day.